afternoon, guys. It's Workin bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin at the US dollar 4-hour chart on Coinbase. And of course, guys, I showed you the last two updates that Bitcoin was getting squeezed tighter and tighter within this larger wedge here, or excuse me, this smaller wedge here, I should say. And of course, this has been happening for about 2 weeks, guys. So we've just had this flat line movement for about 2 weeks. Of course, as it approached the apex, we expect a larger move, and we've had price end up breaking out of that just about 7 hours ago, somewhere thereabouts, guys. Now, I told you if price did end up breaking down, that we were going to be watching this order block right in here, right in this area. And of course, price did end up coming down. That's exactly where we got this nice strong bounce. I told you also, guys, that the area that I'd be looking to enter a buy until we break this this zone that price is trading in. And make no mistake, this is a zone, guys. As I said before, that we're watching the top of this zone sits right up here. If we look at these, this high and this high, almost a perfect double top here, that established the high of this larger structure here, guys. That sits at about 6,800, somewhere thereabouts, guys. 6,810-ish, somewhere thereabouts. Until we do break above that, guys, we have not broken out of this trend, and we aren't going to new highs. So until we do break above that, I told you guys anything between 65.40 and 67.50 wouldn't be a bad area to start stacking in a short position, to entering into a short position, targeting anything 63.60 and below. And I told you a good buy area, if price did end up breaking down, was anything between 62.35 and anyone's in 61.15. I'm expecting, because of course the low of this range sits down here at about $6,040. That is the established low of this this structure here. So of course, anything between 62.35, 61.15, if we're just looking at our support, that was a decent, I told you that was a decent area to ladder in buys, possibly targeting anything above 63.60. And of course, regardless of where it goes, you need a very tight stop, knowing that as this thing is flatlining, we could establish a new trend at any time. And when we do establish that new trend, of course, it's going to be much easier to make money in this market. Until then, all we could do is trade that range, very tight stop. So price didn't end up breaking down, guys. Right now, it looks like to me, we didn't get that very strong bounce yet that I was watching. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean that isn't going to come. It just means we haven't had it yet. So I do believe, guys, there's a good chance that we're going to come back down, at least test this area again around 62.35, somewhere thereabouts, 6,200, somewhere thereabouts, guys. I do think there's a good chance we're going to test it again, possibly coming down as low as 61.15. And if it does end up coming down to this area, guys, of course, I'm going to start stacking in some buy orders. I did have a little bit. I had a very small buy order that was filled coming down in here as soon as at 62.20. Of course, it got filled, came right back up. I'm in profit now, guys, but I'm not going to close it. I'm going to keep that open. So it's such a small position. I'm going to keep that open for now, guys. I have another buy order that's sitting down here at about 61.50. And another one at 61.15. My stop loss is sitting at 60. Actually, let me look. $6,020. So it's just below this prior wick. That's where my stop is sitting, guys. Knowing that if this wick is broken, if this prior low is broken, we could come back down to new 2018 lows very, 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 very quickly. And likewise, guys, if we do break above 6,800, 6,810 on Coinbase, if we do break that prior high, of course, we could start snowballing into a uphill into a larger bull run that everyone is waiting for. But guys, I know a lot of people were calling for price to break up. I know a lot of people were saying that price is going nowhere but up. And of course, we see price break down. Just showed you guys. Make sure I showed you on my last couple updates. I've showed you guys so many times. I told you that we're running out of guppies. I'm not going to do it again. If you want to go back and look at my last couple updates, you can see it. But we just don't have the volume at all. I mean, volume. I think even today, let's look at it. Volume is sitting at about 4.1 billion on the day, which is higher than it has been. We've been at around 3.3 billion, 3.4 billion, somewhere thereabouts. So it is a little bit of a spike with that drop. Of course, we know that most of those are people selling or entering short position, but still a little bump in volume, guys. But until we get volume, as I told you guys, around 9-10 billion consistently per day, you know that new money is not entering this market, and we need new money to enter this market, guys. We need these companies. We need the people that are willing to buy to push price up. Without that volume, you're expecting it just to come. A lot of people are saying, hey, it's lost 70% of its value. We were up at 20,000. We're down around to $6,000 now. That's enough of a correction. But they totally miss that. Back in early October of last year, price was sitting somewhere around $4,000. It went from 4,000 all the way up to 20,000 in 2.5 months. So it increased 500% in 2.5 months. So no, you can't just say, you can't act like that was a healthy climb and it's only going to correct and 70% is enough when that happened, that 500% increase happened in 2 months. I mean, basic technical analysis will tell you that anytime you get an extension like that, clearly that was not a nice healthy climb. Clearly that was based on pure FOMO. The actual price of the fair market value of Bitcoin was not up at $20,000. That was pure FOMO, guys, and everybody knows that. I mean, it's just basic technical analysis. So you have to look at a correction from a logical fair market value, which looks to me like with testing 6,000 was sitting at around $6,000. Now, does that mean we're going to go to new lows? No, we've tested this so many times. It is flatlining. If we get some kind of a catalyst, in other words, if we get some kind of bullish news coming out of the SEC that makes it sound like the approval of ETFs are 100% guarantee, or something, mass adoption by Amazon, some kind of a catalyst, then of course price could absolutely take off. I've told you I'm about 50-50, but to call a bottom in this market and to use this and to say that it's corrected 70%, that's why we should expect it to be a bottom, is ludicrous. That's just that completely ignores the fact that this 20% or this 20,000 rise to $20,000 that you're calling a 70% correction on was on pure FOMO. I mean, that ignores basic tenets of technical analysis. So you've got to take that into account. Now, again, I'm not saying this is going to come down to new lows. I'm saying that it's a possibility, and you need to position yourself accordingly. Now, if we come over here and we look at the bigger picture, and I showed you guys this last time, look at these larger trend lines. Actually, let me pull up. Here we go. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Look at this larger trend line, guys. If we look at this trend line that was established back in March of 2017, this is on the weekly chart, we can see that we're starting to approach this larger trend line here. In other words, we could expect a possible larger bounce. Now, if it just moves sideways, we'll get there in about another 2 weeks or so, somewhere thereabouts, and expect a nice large bounce off that. But if it does end up breaking below this trend line, guys, again, we could be looking at possibly retesting that new possibly retesting the 2018 low, possibly creating a new 2018 low. Now, if we come over here and we look at the larger, more relevant trend line, let me go to log scale. There we go. We come out here and we look at the more relevant trend line, and we look at this going all the way back to, actually, let me pull up the monthly, guys, so we can go back a little bit further. Okay, right now we're looking at the monthly chart, and this goes all the way back to 2012. And we look at this larger trend line, guys. We can see that, again, this is on log scale. We can see this trend line has been tested numerous times here, many times here, just bounced off it nice and brisk, and now we're starting to approach that trend line again. And if we zoom in here, guys, we can see that, again, this is on the monthly chart. So we can see that we'll probably approach this trend line in about another month or so if this thing keeps moving sideways. Now, if we get a drop down to new 2018, or down to test the 2018 low, I find it interesting that right now where we are, if it was to drop, that drop would come somewhere around, it would hit the trend line somewhere around 57.50, 57.75. Why is that relevant? Well, if I come over here and I look at the prior low, what was the low for 2018? Let me come back here to the daily. What was the low for 2018? Again, I'm looking on Coinbase here, but relatively speaking, what was the low for 2018? Well, it was right here. It was established on about June 24th, and it sits at about 57.75 on Coinbase. Now, give or take a little bit depending on the exchange you're looking at, but it's somewhere around 57.75, 5,800, somewhere thereabouts. And if I come over here and I look at log scale, if we were to drop and test that low again, that would hit that trend line somewhere around 57.75, 5,800. So does that mean that's going to happen? No, but does that mean that we could come back down and test that 57.75, that prior low again? Absolutely. We absolutely could. If this thing breaks, we could be coming to much lower lows. But if I look at this trend line, it looks to me, I'd be looking for a possible major bounce right around 57.75, somewhere thereabouts, even lower than that, or excuse me, even a little bit higher than that. Anywhere below 6,000, I'd be looking for new buyers to possibly come in and hit that market. Now, if we come over here and we look at, actually, let me get off log scale and show you why that's a very relevant zone. Come back here. Again, we're off log scale. Let me get back to the daily chart. Actually, I'll pull out the let me pull out the weekly chart. Be a little bit easier. There we go. Okay, looking at that. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Looking at here, guys, we can see back here, the reason this 57.75 all the way down to about 5,500 is a very relevant zone. As we saw back here, guys, back in October, we can see it came down here, tested this many times, strong bounce, came back down, wicked into it, strong bounce, came back down, wicked into it again, strong bounce. So this is a very relevant supply zone right down here. It's wicked down in here a few times. More than likely, there are a ton of buy orders sitting between 57.75 and around 5,500, somewhere thereabouts, guys. So this would be a very, very relevant, very logical area to expect a strong bounce. And as I said, that log scale trend line coincides nicely with the prior low right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see price come back down and hit that. Does that mean that's going to happen? Maybe not. No, it doesn't. And it does not mean that's going to happen. It just means that it is a chance. That is a possibility. It is a very real possibility, guys. So everyone that's saying that that this was the low here, and then of course they said this was the low. They keep calling these new lows. They keep saying the bottom is it. The truth is it could go either way, guys. That I want you to be positioned to make money regardless of where it goes. So in other words, if we do come down to those prior lows, I want you to have fiat on the side so you can take advantage of that. Now, if you don't buy down here and it ends up taking off again, have you really lost anything? No, you haven't lost anything. Did you catch the bottom? No. But once we establish a new trend, guys, making money in this market will not be difficult. Once we have a trend to go on, then we can start to predict with some degree of accuracy, where price is going and good price points to buy and sell. Until we establish that new trend, until we get out of this flat line, we can't do that. Until we get, and no matter what anyone tells you, guys, we cannot do that until we get out of this trend line. It is pure speculation at this point. And everybody that's calling a bottom, yeah, they might be right. And of course, they're going to act like Nostradamus if they are right. Oh, and if they aren't right, they're going to blame it on crypto. But I'm probably one of the only analysts that's sitting here telling you that I can see a good argument for a rise in price or a drop in price from where we are right now, even with this breakdown here now, guys. I told you guys this is the area I'd be stacking and buy, 62.35, 61.15, very tight stop loss, knowing it could go lower until we break this range, though. If you're wanting to make money, that's the area to stack and buys. This is the area to stack in shorts, 65.40 to 67.50, targeting anything around 63.60. Until we break these ranges, guys, until we break above 68.10 or below 6,040, all we can do is trade that range. And it's going to be very interesting to see where this thing ends up. Now, if we come over here and we look at short positions are starting to stack. If we come over here and we look at long positions are starting to fall off the board, even though they were stacking here. If this trend continues, then we can expect, if longs drop and shorts start to stack, of course, what a market maker is going to be incented to do. This is a zero-sum game, as I tell you guys all the time. So if that trend does continue, right now we're already about let's see, we're already about 30, the shorts outweigh the longs by about 33% right now. So right now, market makers have a lot of incentive to bring price up from this. Now, what they might be doing is trapping people into their short positions. They might bring price down a little bit lower, having them stack their shorts, and then they just clobber them by bringing price right back up, go on a nice stop hunt. If they do that, I'm going to be that stop more than likely is going to come right above this area right here. So it's going to come right above 6,500 to 6,540, somewhere thereabouts. Now, there are some shorts more than likely holding on to their positions from back in here. So if they really want to wipe shorts off the board, they're going to have to bring it up to about 67.50. I don't see them doing that. I see if they do end up bringing this thing around, then more than likely, if it's only a stop hunt, if that's all it is, we'll probably find top somewhere around 65.40, somewhere thereabouts, guys. If it's more than that, in other words, if we start triggering, if we do start triggering our buy orders, if price gets low enough to start triggering buy orders and new money starts entering this market, at that point, guys, I do think there's a good possibility, and we'll know that by even if shorts start to stack, if longs start to stack as well, we'll know new money is entering this market. And at that point, then that's what I need to see to start telling me new money is entering, and there's a good chance that that we could be on our way to a bull run. Sorry, guys, had to pause the video there real quick. Throat's getting extremely dry. All right, looking at the RSI, guys, this is on the daily. We can see the dailies right now sitting at about 38.8, somewhere thereabouts, guys. Still has plenty of room to drop. If we come over here and we look at the weekly, we can see the weekly still getting consolidated here. It hasn't dropped out of this wedge here, even though it's going to here very, very soon. Obviously, it's got nowhere else to go. So as I said, guys, I would expect as we get that apex, I would expect a larger move to come here on this weekly. As of right now, it's pretty much unfazed, just kind of consolidating, getting squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter. We come over here to the 4 4-hour, we're way oversold. Now, if we look in the past, guys, more than likely what we're going to get is we're going to get a little bit of a bounce and then coming back down for a retest. Now, that retest, that second retest, sometimes price explodes if we just look at history, and other times we come back down, get a retest, back up, and then back down for a third, fourth, even fifth retest, and even come back down to possibly lower lows. Right now, we're sitting at about 21.7. We can see that, you know, just even in the not so distant past, we've been sitting down around 17. You know, somewhere thereabouts. Got as low as about 14 back here in June. So, you know, we could come much lower, but we are fairly oversold. So I wouldn't be surprised, at least in the short term, to see a nice little bounce here and then coming back down for a retest of the prior low. That would make a lot of sense to me. Again, just looking on the daily, realizing we still have plenty of room to drop here if price does need to, and I do think there's a good chance that it's that it may end up doing that, at least down to around this zone, 35, 30, somewhere thereabouts, before it ends up turning right back around. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out. If we come over here and we start looking at our moving averages, this is on the 4-hour. I told you guys that the Bollinger Bands were getting squeezed. We can see that we finally broke out of that, came back down. Of course, we're well below the 821 55-day moving average, well below there. Come over here and look at the daily. We can see that on the daily, guys, we're still, of course, well below the 821 55-day moving average, or exponential moving average, I should say. I think I said moving average before, guys. I meant EMA. Of course, we're well below the 50-day moving average as well. We still have plenty of room to drop here. We're looking at the Bollinger Bands here. If we're looking at the bottom, we still have plenty of room to drop. If we come over here, check out the weekly. Obviously, we have plenty of room to drop here on the weekly. I know some people are watching this weekly, the weekly Bollinger Bands, wanting to bottom out somewhere in the weekly Bollinger Bands, guys. And I find it, again, very interesting. I showed you the trend line. I showed you the prior low, all sitting around 57.75. If we were to hit that trend line, if we were to hit the prior low. And also, if we come over here and we look at the Bollinger Bands, we can also see the Bollinger Bands are sitting somewhere around 57.50. So again, that's pretty close to that prior low, that prior 2018 low right back in here, guys. We can see it sitting right back in here. That's pretty dang close to that, guys. And on Bitfinex, that prior low, actually this is Bitfinex. On Bitfinex, that prior low was 57.50. And that almost lines up perfectly with the bottom of the Bollinger Bands. So again, guys, I wouldn't be, so if we hit the bottom Bollinger Bands on the weekly, guys, I would not be surprised to see an explosion in price. And that point, I would likely, if we got a strong bounce off that, guys, I would call that a bottom. Now, it doesn't mean that would be the bottom. Let's wait and see how, if we get down there and how price reacts. But if we get a strong bounce off that, guys, that would be a very logical place to end up expecting a bottom, guys, and we'll just have to wait and see how that ends up playing out. So, guys, bottom line is be very careful. Yes, we have broken down. Yes, I have started to slowly stack in buy orders between here, guys, knowing very well that if price does break 51.15, coming down to this prior low, that we could come down to new 2018 lows very quick. So I have a very tight stop loss, guys, as I said. But watching this area, guys, this little breakdown here could be, if you're a scalp and or day trader, could be a buying opportunity, especially if we come back down below 62.35 again, which I think that we very likely will. Could be a very good buy opportunity. This could be a bear trap, trapping people into shorts, and then their immediate market makers reversing this right back up, going on a stop hunt, bringing it right back up again. So again, if you're wanting to make money in this market, and you're comfortable, and you've got money to, and you have a little bit of money to lose, because again, we're keeping a very tight stop loss, and you're comfortable with the risk, stacking in a buy order between 62.35, 61.15, targeting anything above 63.60 makes a lot of sense in my opinion. But again, that's a rather risky play. Just stick to your stop loss, and only do it if you do have a little bit of money to lose. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.